The 55th International Biel Chess Festival already has started, and one tournament already is finished in the Grandmaster Triathlon, or the GMT, the Chess 960 tournament is over. So it was gathering a total of 8 invited Grandmasters who are trying out who is going to be the best in the Chess 960 uh, distance. So the games were really interesting, a lot of unpredictable games, and that's why I think it's a good idea to look back what happened in some of the most interesting games. So we probably have to start with round one when one of the youngest players in the field, Vincent Keimer, was playing with the white color against an even younger player, the Mariah Gukesh from India. And the clash really started early, right after the game, when Vincent was trying to get aggressive at the king side with a g4 push. But after c6, when black started to show his ambition at the queen side, here, Vincent perhaps was not yet ready for the action. He played a bit slow. Rook f1, clearly preparing either rook d1, king b1 idea, or position the rook just in case at f-file. Yet the young Indian here was pretty fast to organize his counterplay with b5. Here, obviously, the white king is in the middle of the action, so Vincent tried to complicate matters with c5. But after c takes on d5, takes on d6, knight c6, the white king was in the middle of the action. So after a couple of moves, the young German tried to consolidate his position, but he was never given a chance. So after knight e3, rook d3, take it here, and b4. Suddenly, black joins the bishop on b5 with a deadly force attacking the rook and the knight. And after a couple of moves, the young German had to concede. So that was quite a terrible start for Keimer, and again, a great way to start a tournament for Gukesh. In the second round, Gukesh continued his winning ways. So after a couple of quiet moves like g3, f4, bringing the bishops in the game, here the young Indian played a4, which was one of the common motifs in the Chess 960 tournament. Tried to push the a pawn with the rook and a1 as far as possible at the early start of the game in order to create some targets. And it was actually quite surprising that the young Uzbeki grandmaster Abdusatorov collapsed very quickly. So after bishop d5, he tried to trade a powerful light square bishop on h1, and after knight f3, knight c3, it was a very interesting clash. So what's going to be better, the two knights or the two bishops? So of course the young Indian tried to immediately break the center with e4, and Abdusatorov was just a bit slow, so already the pawn on d5 is becoming a target. He tried to consolidate his position, so now you see this one of the oddities of Chess 960 tournament. This is actually a short castle, so white hit the king in the safety. And after queen a2, increased pressure on the pawn on d5, rook e1, knight a4, another great move. We could see very quickly deteriorating the position for the world rapid champion. After knight c5, queen b3, another target on b7, d takes, knight e6, knight g5. It was actually quite unbelievable how black's position was just collapsing very fast. Another powerful move. And after bishop c5, the game was done. So Abdusatorov had seen it enough. He resigned, and for Gukesh, this meant that he was leading the tournament with 2 points out of 2. What a surprise start. We could see a lot of very interesting improvising games right at the start in the Chess 960 tournament, and one of the most memorizing games was played by Salem Saleh against Arkady Naidech. So here after c4, e5, knight f3, c5. Of course, there's no opening theory here, but we were really impressed by the move b4. And after a3, white sacrificed the pawn in order to bring the bishop on a3 as quickly as possible. So Naidech decided to accept the challenge, but after bishop takes on a3, d6, there was the surprise move, knight takes on e5. So clearly with the idea that after dx on e5, there's queen b4, and suddenly black has some issues to defend the rook on f8. Well, knight probably should have taken the knight on e5 anyway and proceeded with knight e6, but he continued with knight b6, and Salem continued to play really energetic chess after moves like c5, d4, trying to rip apart black's position, knight b3. He masterfully combined all of his pieces to become a very deadly force. Now the knight on a4 is under attack by the bishop here on d1, and after queen c7, another powerful move, knight c6, the bishop a4, and after several tactical moves, yet another beauty happened here. After queen b4, threatening with a deadly knight e7 check. Knight h responded with knight e6 and queen d4. So black cannot really take on d4 because this will be a smothered mate. Knight e7, you notice the black rook on h8. So black had to play knight f5, and white simply collected the pawn and was able to convert the game. So really, really impressive, dynamic game for United Arab Emirates grandmaster, who did not score a single draw in the tournament, scoring 4 wins and losing 3 games. Also, it was quite important to mention, despite the fact that for perhaps Nadic this was not the greatest tournament, he was able to make some sort of upset in the 4th round, because Gukesh was the surprise leader at the start, having scored 3 victories in a row. And here he was playing in the 4th round against Nadic with the black color. He was suffering for most of the part of the game. And here, instead of stopping the d-pawn, Arkady decided to checkmate black. So not only rook e8 is threatened with rook takes on f8, but also rook d8 stopped the d-pawn. Of course, the young Indian grandmaster had no choice. He tried to promote his queen. And now it was actually quite odd that after rook takes on f8, king h7, the only winning move here is rook h8, which was found by knight h, because it's quite funny that after queen f5 check, which is the most obvious move in this position, after g6, there is no follow-up for white, because queen d7 is impossible because of the black queen stands on d1, and of course, queen f7 is impossible because the black other queen stands on a2. So after rook f7, rook f8, the game would simply finish in a draw. Instead, he did found the correct move, rook h8, king g6, queen c6, and the black queens are useless. So black tried to escape at the king on h5, and here white has a number of ways to win this, but queen e8, check, g6, a rook takes on h6 was a beautiful way to wrap up the game. So here black resigns because of king h6, queen h8 is mate on the board. Now, let's continue with more games, and I think we also have to look at the eventual tournament winners. Vincent Keimer, one of the games, which he was played the next round against, again, Nidec. And here he showed an amazing understanding of the position. So here, black has good control of the light squares. Here, Vincent played f5, clearly hinting with e4. And after black's e6, here, Keimer understood that he needs to trade the knight on d6, rip apart the center with e4, and after a couple of trades, also play bishop f3. After the trade, you could already see that something is terribly wrong with black's position, because the bishop on h8 does not really impress, and the black queen on b8 also doesn't do much. Now, knight h tried to consolidate his position by playing king b7 and probably somehow bring the queen into the defense, but after rook e7, queen e1, and rook e3, we could see the Alekhine gun on the board. After rook d8, here Keimer unleashed a deadly attack. Knight c5 check. Black had no choice but to take it, but the big surprise here was not knight x on c5, but knight a5 check, because now white has access to the a5 square and threatening to take the pawn on c6. After king a8, knight c6, queen a5 already is a deadly threat, so c takes, queen a5, queen b5. This was the end of the game, because black is about to get mated on b7, so he cannot take the rook on e3. However, one of the most memorable games of the entire tournament was the following maneuver, the next round. Here, Arkady was playing with the white color. He played bishop f3, seemingly threatening to play a5 and rook b7 check. Well, naturally, Gatakamsky with the black color decided to defend against the threat and play a5, targeting the pawn on a4 and also the pawn on h4, just in case. And this was the moment when the Azerbaijani grandmaster unleashed a very powerful positional exchange sacrifice. Rook takes on b6. After king b6, h5, you could suddenly see the surprise in Gata's face is that you see that the rook on h6 cannot really escape its prison. He did try to play d6, a d4, take it, and king c5. And here, knight edge missed his first victory, so which was actually a bit obvious, to be honest. Go with the king on g5, for example, king e3, king b4, king f4, take it. So black could try to advance the a pawn to a4, but here white has a very powerful idea, bishop d5, not only stopping the black's a pawn, but also advancing his own. And this would have been quite a clean victory for the Azerbaijani grandmaster. Now instead he did play king c3, which was a bit slow. And now in this position, we could see that actually it's white who is in the Zugzwang because he has to guard a d5 square, not allow black to play king e5 and thus escape with the rook on f6. And now black did get access to king b4. Now the action continued in a very severe time trouble. And here after king g5, a4, knight made a huge mistake by playing bishop e4, which was a blunder. He should have taken the rook, played the same idea, bishop d5, and the game probably would end with a draw. Now suddenly after bishop e4, a3, bishop b1, here knight realized after king b3, king b2, black would be just winning. Now, definitely Kamsky saw the idea, but he decided first to snatch the pawn on h5 just in case. Well, unfortunately for him, this was returning the favor, because now after king b3, white had the surprising move bishop f5, and the game, after a couple of moves, ended in a draw. Now, moving to the final round, we had two leaders in the tournament, Vincent Keimer and Nodirbek Abdusatorov. Both of the players were fighting for the win, and thus in the Grandmaster Triathlon for the best tiebreak in case there's an even amount of points in the overall rankings. This position arose in Yu Yonggi's game against Vincent, and it was actually quite odd because both players were threatening with exchange sacrifice. White is threatening to sacrifice the exchange to play e6, e7 and promote the e-pawn. And also black is threatening to take on d4 and try to promote his own pawn. Either way, white was in trouble here, so he decided to play rook d7, I guess to improve the threat to take on d5. And here, for Vincent, this was basically an easy task to take on d4, play e3, and this pawn is unstoppable. I guess because of king a1, black can at least give a check first on c1 and then simply promote e-pawn. Now, after a couple of moves, the Chinese grandmaster tried to deliver a perpetual check, but it did not work because the e-pawn is unstoppable. Well, it seemed already that Vincent is winning the tournament. Sudden, unexpected turn of events happened in Abdusatorov's final game against Arkady Naiditsch. Naiditsch was doing great the entire game. He had an extra pawn. Here he snatched another pawn on a5, so it seemed that everything is clear and Keimer is going to seal the deal. However, after a couple of moves, white was able to create some threats in the time trouble, now meaning the pawn on b7 is weak. Now here black decided that he's the one trying to checkmate white and gave a check and played queen a1, threatened with some checks on c1 or b1. However, after queen b4, it appeared that this is just one check and white's threats queen b7 are more serious. So here Naiditsch simply had to try something. He didn't find any defense, and after rook d2, bishop f4, he simply resigned. So that was really surprise twist of the tournament. Unfortunate end for Naiditsch, but also this meant we had a shared first place in the tournament. So in the end, we had two winners of the Chess 960 tournament, Vincent Keimer and Nodirbek Abdusatorov, with 5 points out of 7. And it was really odd because both of them had exactly the same scores against all of their opponents, as you can see in the rankings. All of the tiebreaks were equal. The amount of wins were equal. So according to the tournament regulations, only the tiebreaker number 4 was in the favor of the German Grandmaster. The number of wins with black. Having Vincent scored 2 victories against Nodirbek's 1, he was declared the winner of Chess 960 tournament. Like Wang Liyem took the third place with 4.5 points. Also, it's notable to mention that Salem Saleh scored 4 wins, 3 losses with no draws. Gata Komsky scored pretty much all of the draws in the tournament, 3 draws out of 7. Really, really interesting games. So probably a tournament to forget for Arkady Nadic, Yu Yangui, and for Gukesh. This was quite unfortunate finish because he did start 3 wins out of 3. Then he suffered a couple of losses in the row, and then in the final round he did blunder very unfortunately queen in one move against Salem Saleh. So the action will continue on Tuesday with the rapid tournament of the Grandmaster Triathlon, which is the very first tournament in order to bring points. Andrei Yesipenko has arrived here, so he was unable to play in the Chess 960 tournament, and he was substituted by Yu Yangyi. He is here in Biel, so the action will resume with the rapid section. Don't miss it. Welcome everybody back to the 55th International Biel Chess Festival. Here today with you in the studio from Biel, Switzerland will be Angelika Volkova, and I'm Grandmaster Arthur Nations.
Yeah, nice to see you all here. It's like the first set, the real beginning of the tournament. Yesterday we had the Chess 960, it was a tiebreaker, and now we're going right into the Grandmaster Triathlon, starting with a rapid tournament.
Right, so today it's actually the day that really the triathlon started because yesterday the Chess 960 tournament was serving as part of the tiebreakers, but either way it was a very exciting tournament. It was won by the young German Grandmaster Vincent Keimer. And today they are going to start the rapid tournament in about 3 minutes. And while we do have the time, perhaps very quickly, let's check who are the players playing in the Grandmaster tournament.
So we are having Andrei Yasipenko. Actually, yesterday he was not participating because he was still on the road from another tournament. And today, actually, he is there for the rapid tournament. The next one is Le Quang Liam, the Vietnamese grandmaster. And yesterday he was having a pretty nice tournament. He was even had a shot for the first place, but I believe he was third yesterday. So we have also Saleh Salem. And yeah, he's having a richest experience at Biel Chess Festival, and this year he's finally in the Grandmaster Triathlon. Let's see what will he show us today. So we are having as well Gata Kamsky, the winner, the previous winner of the Grandmaster Triathlon 2021. So, and he is also actually the oldest participant of the GMT tournament. And we have the winner of the Chess 960 from yesterday, Vincent Keimer, showed us some real great stuff on the board. And Noderbek Abdusatorov, the world rapid champion. So we'll see today what will show us in the rapid. And we're having Arkady Naidic. So yesterday he didn't really play that well, but he still got the 7th place. But he managed to win against Gukesh, and here we're coming to the Gukesh. He was leading the first part of the tournament yesterday, so I believe he has some ambitions today.
Right, and also just to remind you, the tournament system of the Grandmaster Triathlon, which is a pretty unique tournament, to be honest, Angelika. I haven't really seen something like that anywhere else. This is a combination of 3 tournaments, so we have 28 games in total, 7 in classical, 7 in rapid, and 2 double round games in the blitz. So here you see, this is the scoring system for the classical, 4 points for the win, 1.5 for the draw, obviously 0 for the loss. So it really is rewarding. Try to win the game. In the rapid, there's a 2-point reward for the victory, 1 point for a draw, 0 for the loss. And blitz, it's like usual. So the time control, here you see the classical tournament still has not yet started. It's going to start on Thursday. Today we had the rapid tournament, 15 minutes plus 5 seconds. The blitz section will be played on another day, 3 minutes plus 2 seconds. And in the end, you see these 8 players, they're fighting for really amazing prize fund of over 30,000 Swiss francs. So yeah, the winner will get 10,000 in his pocket. So I do believe we already have to go back to the action because the games have already started. Look, camera is a bit lagging behind. All right, here we go.
Yeah, so we're already having the first move on the board. We have already some openings. Yesterday we had some issues, of course, with that because in Chess 960 there was no real openings. And okay, now players are going for the standard chess, and yeah, we see already the real chess. And they're starting with a game Gukesh against Nabdusatorov. So let's see, you can see them also on the camera. We're just adjusting a little bit so you can see better even. Yeah.
Right. We have this amazing opportunity to move the cameras a little bit. Of course, we're not going to try to do it too much, but we can follow the games live. So yeah, I mean, yeah, by the way, I think we have to make this very special announcement that Today, we are going to have, in about 1.5 hours, we're going to have a very, very, very special guest here in the studio, which is going to be nobody else but the former world champion, Vishy Anand. He's here in Biel. He's following his countrymen playing in the Biel tournaments. So he has agreed to join us for a moment here in the studio. So basically, I think it's round 3 and 4, so don't miss it. Wait here, and you're going to see him in action.
Absolutely. And if you have some questions regarding the tournament, or for example, maybe some special questions to Anand, which we can discuss later here in the studio, then you for sure write them in the chat.
Right. All righty. So we just chose the first game here, which is Domarai Gukesh against Abdusatorov. And right, it was really, really interesting game they had yesterday in Chess 960 because, you know, if you were following the recap in the beginning of the broadcast, this video, by the way, also will be published on Biel's YouTube channel a moment later today. Yesterday, they played one of the early rounds. I think it was round 2, when Gukesh just crushed, the world rapid champion Abdusatorov in about 20, 21 moves, although it was Chess 960. And he had an amazing run, 3 points out of 3. And recently, Gukesh has been showing very, very good results, winning a number of tournaments in Spain. But then he had a major setback. He suffered 2 losses in a row. And then the unfortunate final 7th round, where he blundered the queen against Salem Saleh.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Artur? Can somehow this experience from the Chess 960 help Abdusatorov to maybe take a revenge today?
Yeah, probably. I think he still remembers yesterday's painful experience because, I mean, when you're seeing very strong players lose like that so quickly, well, that's really, really impressive. Yeah, I would say that Abdusatorov is very much motivated here to score very good because in the opening ceremony, you ask him, right?
Yeah.
You ask him, I mean, what are your ambitions here? And he just said, I want to win everything.
Yeah, he said he will try, and yeah, it was pretty ambitious. So let's see what's happening on the board. So the first mover played. So it was started with d4, d6, knight f3, knight f6. So in a way, starting like old Indian defense, and
this is not very standard.
Bishop f5.
This is not very standard because usually black plays the traditional way, bishop g7, e4, short castle. We have, the traditional king's Indian. But actually, I think it's very interesting to note here that black played d6 quite early because, normally if black plays the king's Indian, he starts with knight f6, g6, knight c3. White is aiming to establish powerful pawn center. And then black has a choice, right? Either go for the king's Indian or switch to the Grandfeld with d5. So I don't know. This d6 is quite interesting.
So basically, he gave a chance in the beginning to play for e4, so not even like stopping it right away. So in the second move, it could have happened, but Gukesh went for knight f3 and knight c3, and yeah, so probably he is trying to push at some moment for e4.
Yeah, indeed. So g3 played by white, so it makes sense really to position the bishop on the long diagonal. Bishop g7, bishop g2. Now white has some issues to push e4 because the bishop on e5 is stopping it. Knight e4, this is pretty much a common idea in these positions because you look at this position, black's position feels a bit cramped, there's no space. So according to some of the best practices in chess, it makes sense to trade off some pieces so that you get, so to speak, more luft for your pieces,
Yes.
right? So knight e4 is a normal trading move because the other knight could be heading to d7. And look at this move, knight e5, Gukesh says, no, I'm not going to trade your knight.
He's rejecting the trading of the pieces, and that's actually what you should do when you're having a space advantage, what he absolutely has here in the center. And I believe the other move has been played. Bishop goes back to d7. So basically he's saying bishop is not needed anymore on f5 and goes back.
I have a theory, Angelika. I think this idea of knight e5 is somehow linked not only to escape a trade, but also threatened with knight e3. So for example, let's say black does something, For example, something normal, like a short castle. I could play knight e3. I could try to get the two bishop advantage, somehow combined with ideas to play knight h4, apply some pressure against the bishop on f5. Let's say if black plays, I don't know where you go, there could be some problems. Let's say maybe even the same knight h4, and suddenly the knight on e4 is under attack, and indirectly also the pawn on b7. So this must be the idea why bishop d7 was played immediately.
Yeah, I believe if white, instead of playing knight d5, goes for knight h4, then after trading on c3, probably there's just bishop c8 protecting back the pawn. So that's why Lukash went for it rather. So queen c2, attacking the knight immediately.
Queen
So
c2, yeah.
basically inviting back bishop to go for f5, but Abdusatorov is going for f5. What a move!
You know, this Angelica probably is one of the most odd ways how to switch to the Dutch Leningrad, because with the bishop on g7, the pawn on f5, this does feel like some sort of a Dutch Leningrad position, and well, it makes sense because the knight on e4 is not protected. At some point, black might want to push e5 and establish a small pawn center.
Yeah, absolutely. But I believe maybe there is some way for white to use this diagonal for the bishop. And he's going immediately for h4, h5 idea. Because knight is not on f6 anymore, and while knight is on e4, white has some time for it.
Right, right. So definitely it's an interesting idea. Like you said, it could be idea like h5, maybe take on g6, establish a weakness, maybe also push h6 and bother this bishop because it doesn't really have a lot of places to go. Maybe at some point there also could be an idea to play knight g5, forcing a trade, recapture the pawn, and then open the h file to do something. But of course the pawn on d4 is under attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And if black is stopping this idea of h5 with playing h5 themselves, it would weaken the g5 square so much. I believe that Abdusatorov doesn't want to do it.
Right, right.
But something like h6 maybe can be tried, or like to be flexible and after h5 to go for g5, for example.
h6 is definitely a move. Maybe there could be some problems after knight f4. This I've suffered a few times with the black color because I'm a frequent Dutch Leningrad system player. Yeah, so this knight f4 could be a problem, and then if you play something like king f7, there could be g4, there could be h5. You know, this is already looking, how do I say that, suspicious.
Yeah, so that's why when black is going really for this f5, they have to be indeed careful with protecting the g6 and g5 squares, not to weaken them too much. Okay.
All right, let's make maybe a short overview of what is happening in the other games, because of course this is not the only game. There's many, I mean not many, basically there's 3 other games, because this is a round robin tournament of 8 players. This means every single round there's 4 games, so we have 7 rounds in total. So I guess we are going to switch to the second game of Gata Kamsky against Le Quang Liem.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we have already some action. Knight is on f5. Oh, it looks pretty nice, to be honest. I believe how the pieces of white are there on the king side, somehow looking at black's weaknesses on d6.
Can you guess the opening if you don't look at the notation?
Okay, I don't know. Wait a second.
I think it's Ray Lopez.
Ah, okay.
Because I recognize this position. You know, it's actually interesting because it looks like Najdorf. It looks like Najdorf because this pawn structure, the pawns on d6 and e5, black gains some space on the d4, f4 squares. He voluntarily weakens the d5 square, but this arises sometimes from the Ray Lopez. So indeed, yeah, already seeing it. Indeed, it's Ray Lopez.
Because it's very hard to look at the board and not to look at the notation.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but I'm myself not really playing e4, so I'm not really familiar with this. But now I see it, of course, immediately.
H3. H3 is the traditional way to continue here because d4 indeed allows bishop g4. Well, I believe, maybe correct me if I'm mistaken, this line is considered to be sort of harmless, right? But there's always a possibility for some new ideas, and maybe in rapid, maybe Gata wants to test some ideas. So yeah, it's definitely a move. But far more popular continuation is h3. And actually, it's quite interesting because here, after bishop b7, I remember I was posting this position in the social media couple of years ago, and I was amused how it comes that the engines value this position in favor for white. Because you look at the position, white is underdeveloped. The entire queen side is not playing. Black has finished development, and yet engines give a firm advantage to white.
But I believe that's because, if you look at the black's knight, they're a little bit restricted, and even if knight goes to a5, there is bishop c2, so it's not a real problem. And otherwise, the other knight also cannot go. Bishop on a7 feels a little bit awkward. Maybe just because black in some sequences of the move can just develop pretty faster, and that's why it might be better.
I just think it's pretty odd. Put the knight, usually the knight is rearranged from c6 either to a5, like you said, or knight b8, knight e7, some of the Breyer ideas of the Rafael Lopez. Yeah, absolutely. But this is, of course, a different variation, and d4 is something else.
Yeah, and we have here d4, bishop. Yeah, okay, d4, so allowing this bishop g4, as Artur's just said. And here, playing
d5?
d5.
Yeah,
wow.
bishop e3, I think it's also a move. Bishop e3, it's also a move because knight e4 is not very good due to the very typical Rafael Lopez trick, bishop d5. Actually, this trick always reminds me of checkers, really. Have you played some checkers?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
yes.
so you position the queen in the middle of two other queens, and then somehow they cannot capture your queen, and then you are taking one of the others. So
yeah.
I find it a bit odd.
Yeah, that's a trick. That's a trick. Okay, so d5 was played, grabbing some space, and knight goes to a5, and probably on c4 aiming, or to be relocated to c5 for b7.
Yeah, this is theory. This is still theory, I believe. After c6, h3, bishop c8. I know this. I've played it myself. Yeah, queen c7 also is one of the main moves. Knight c6 is, of course, very natural, but the black is thinking a bit further because maybe he's going to put the knight on c4 and, I don't know, try to get to the pawn on b2 or rearrange it to b6, and on c6, it's actually not doing much.
Yeah, exactly. And after knight d2, queen took the pawn, so really, indeed, going for the knight c4, knight was relocated all the way to g3, trying to catch something on the f5 square. Yeah, bishop e6, so trying to develop normally, right?
Right. Angelica, I sort of remember that this position, according to the engines, is more or less equal. But when you're playing a rapid game, you just can't help but feel that all of white's pieces are sort of looking towards the black king, right? So it's easy. It's easy. Of course, when you're playing a classical game, you can work out all of the nuances. But sometimes in the rapid game, all you need is a simple to execute plan, a simple attack against the king, hoping that it's going to work. And if it doesn't, okay, it's a draw.
Yeah, because of the limited time, like if you have some initiative already, you can just go for it. And if there is some critical position and opponent has to spend even more time to find a better move, it will be for him a drawback at a later stage when he will just be like very low on time. Yeah, so knight finally reached the f5 square. Very nice knights there, and bishop is going back to f7, f8. Sorry, basically saying that there is nothing better it can do, just protecting the d6 pawn.
Yeah, so indeed, white is trying to cook up something. Normally, there's nothing. This I sort of know, but well, when you're playing the game, then you have some other ideas because you start to get concerned. Well, there you go. G6 is already making some committal weaknesses, and Gata is just about ready to sacrifice the piece on f5. Of course, the knight on c4 has to go away. Knight h6 makes sense. Bishop h6. So actually, that's a pawn sacrifice, right?
Yeah, this is a pawn sacrifice in order to maybe get that knight on b6 like very restricted, because now knight cannot go anywhere, just on d7. Yeah, and pawn is going all the way to h5, trying to open some files to the king, trying to open up the position, because after playing g6, it means that black has a weakness. Before, when pawn was on g7, it was a solid position for the king, and once the pawn is on g6, white indeed has some chances.
I think Gata knows this position. Definitely he knows this, because it's not like you just improvise over the board. Okay, I'm going to play b3, I'm going to play knight h6, I'm just going to give up the pawn and pray it's going to work, right? I'm pretty sure that maybe if not this exact position, but at least something very similar Gata has seen before. Because I also read in the chat what you're saying there, viewers, that this is a favorite position of Gata. Okay, I mean, I don't really know that. It might be. So white sacrifices a pawn in order to have some sort of initiative at a king side. So black has a pawn. And yeah, I mean, he's trying to survive this.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, yesterday, after the prize giving or during the prize giving ceremony of the Chess 960, there was, also drawing of the numbers for the rapid, right? If I'm not mistaken. And I think yesterday the players already knew who are they going to face today. And so maybe Gata prepared somehow. I mean, it's pretty hard to prepare because everyone can play everything, But maybe I got to prepared something and
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps. I mean, maybe they already played some games before, which I'm not really aware of. I would have to open the database and check it. But I think in the rapid game, we are not going to do that. I think when we are going to be following the classical games, oh my goodness, we are going to bring you up statistics, we're going to bring you up databases, we're going to draw you trees of moves and everything because we'll have so much time while the players will be pondering about their moves, but this is a rapid game, so we'll mainly focus on what's happening, and 95 is on the board.
yeah, just look at this sacrifice of the knight because after g takes on f5, is it just a check? No, it's not a checkmate, but it's just a bishop.
Yeah, it's just a bishop.
Just a bishop.
Right? It's just a bishop, and also this last by bishop for white suddenly becomes really a powerful piece, so probably I assume that after knight f5, black is not going to take it, and he takes it. Okay, I stand corrected.
And we see also, this idea of b3, because b3 is also holding the c4 square from the bishop, which was played quite a few moves before, so Gata really prepared for something like this.
Yeah, and also I think it's quite interesting to notice that Kamsky's time management is excellent. I mean, he has 10 almost more than 10 minutes on the clock. Once again, to remind you, the time control of the GMT Rapid Tournament, it's 15 minutes plus 5 seconds. I don't think there's a Sofia rule enforced for the Rapid Tournament. I mean, Sofia rule, this is like a notorious rule for grandmasters. Those grandmasters who don't really want to fight, you sort of force them to fight, and you make up like a rule that for the first 30 or 40 moves, you cannot really agree to a draw. And this rule is enforced in the classical tournament, meaning first 40 moves, there cannot be agreed draw unless, of course, it's a threefold repetition. But I think rapid is just too much fun. So, of course, they want to fight it out.
Absolutely. Rapid and blitz are basically two time controls when the draws are, how many draws did we have yesterday, actually, overall?
I don't want really to spread false information, but I'm pretty sure that Gata made all the draws in the tournament. Yeah, I think so. He made 3 draws. Maybe somebody else also. No, wait, I'm sorry.
Vincent against Abdusatorov.
Yeah, Vincent. Okay, I stand corrected. Vincent against Abdusatorov. But Gata made most of the draws. 3 draws out of 7 games, I think so.
Yeah, and you can see how many draws are happening. So that's why also they're giving these points. In this case we have 2 points. No, sorry, 1 point for the draw and 2 for the win, right? In the rapid, yes. So it means basically with 2 draws you can get the point, so to say, for the victory. Because normally in rapid or blitz, draws are not happening that regularly because at some moment someone blunders and the other one catches it.
Right. Right. So, yeah, in the rapid section, there's not really such a pressure to win the game. It's more in the classical game, in the classical tournament, because it will be 4 points for the victory and 1.5 for the draw. And already last year, when we were doing the commentary, we saw that the players indeed were trying to push very hard for the win, because for them, it matters. It really matters. And all of the 8 players, invited players here in the GMT, they're definitely enjoying the tournament. And they have an awesome cultural program here. Tomorrow, I believe, they also will have an excursion. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's great time here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the grandmasters know already from the beginning that at the end it will be really tough with the points. And in classical chess, getting, victory is really something, And that's why they have to know it from the beginning. For example, if at the end of the rapid tournament, let's say someone needs just a draw to win the tournament, he will still push for the victory. He will still try to create something. I don't think he will immediately go for a draw because he needs more points.
Yep. So there's some hostilities here at the board. Black has an extra pawn. I'm not really sure how to value this position because White has pretty powerful rooks here on c1 and d1. The bishop on h6, bishop e2 is doing well. The black king is sort of weak. I see the bar. The bar is merciless. Bar says, I mean, what you're talking there? This is just an obvious draw. You know, I don't really know. It feels to be that White has a complete compensation. Black is doing all right. So I think we're simply going to use this opportunity and check the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one is actually played by Yesipenko with white pieces, who's finally arrived here to Biel, and he's playing against the winner of the yesterday's Chess 960 tournament, Vincent. So what do we see here on the board? Some trades already have happened.
I see 3 knights in the center. Yeah, so I think for the pure perfection, all that's missing is another white knight on e4. Unfortunately, it's gone. So, I mean, pure perfection here is impossible. So let's maybe check very, very quickly how did they get to this position, because, I mean, the game's already slowly approaching to the time trouble. Oh, Bogolyubov, okay. Bishop b4 check. Knight e2, now it switches to some sort of Catalan. It's actually quite amazing, right? Starts with Bogolyubov, it switches to Catalan, or maybe Queen Zinden, then it's Catalan, and then you get Rai Lopez or something. I don't know. I mean, it's quite amazing.
Yes, chess can transpose in anything, and you know, like some pawn structure still can remind from others opening, can be also transposed there. Even like if you're playing e4 or d4, it can still transpose to similar positions.
Right. So this seems to be theory, to be honest, because sacrificing the pawn on c4 in Catalans or the Queen's Gambit, I mean, it's very traditional stuff. White gets the Docksweb bishop here for the long-term compensation. And of course, it's the eternal question, I mean, who has it more? Does White's two bishops are so powerful to compensate the pawn? And in the end, I mean, we're going to find it out. But
yeah, indeed, if position is getting opened, I mean, especially in the center, the bishops are obviously stronger ones than the knights. So
this is interesting maneuver by the Angelique. Look at this. I
A4?
mean, he's not even defending the pawn. Not something like c6, which would give perhaps to Vincent some funny ideas like, you know, I don't know, knight g5, threaten with e4, e5, checkmate on h7, threaten to take, untake. So what Yesipenko did here is he's ruining his pawn structure, but he's focusing on the
sorry,
well-being.
Vincent did it. Vincent playing black.
Oh my
No
goodness.
problem.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Vincent. Yeah, that's Vincent. So Vincent played this amazing queen d5, queen b5. He's going to have to take all the credit for playing this very interesting idea. And White just wins back the pawn.
Yeah, so he's giving back the pawn, and sometimes it's indeed something which you should do to not to, you know, be down in development and maybe to gain some initiative for yourself. Because now the pawn on c5 also can be vulnerable. And we see that the two bishop advantage from White is just gone.
Yeah, it's not there. And I guess also knight c5 here is impossible due to some bishop b4 pins, right? And could be problematic for Black to keep it. I'm not even sure if this is not playable, but let's just assume they know what they're doing, right? I mean, maybe this pawn on c4 is weak, and the knight on d7 is passive. So after king g2, h5, window for the king. You know, actually, I'm always amazed, Angelika, when I see moves like this, because it's not the more modest move like h6. You know, you give loft again for your king, and just in case you don't blunder mate after 50 moves. But you play h5, and at the same time, not only you're preparing an escape route for the black king, but also you're fighting for some squares.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, like players already, you know, getting prepared to the phase when their, for example, rooks can be traded or knights. So even like endgame with more limited material. So that's why h5 can be indeed very helpful later.
Right. Yeah, bishop b4, not Vincent, but Andre. I keep mixing up for some reason. I think that Vincent is playing with white.
Because both are very young and
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
and both are very good.
Yeah, both are very good, definitely. f4, knight e7, e4. White is slowly grabbing space. Andre recently has had a bad streak, to be honest, because he had what was it, something like 27 and 20 a couple of months ago, and then I'm not sure really what happened. Perhaps he was playing a lot of tournaments, but his results started to slightly decline. So I mean, he lost quite a few rating points, and now you see, if I see it correctly, it's already below 2,700. Last weekend, he was playing in Leon in Spain together actually with Vichy Anand, to whom he did not play. Right, I mean, he was playing against Boris Gelfand. And also Anand, of course, is here. And again, to remind you, he's going to join us in about 1 hour here. So don't go anywhere, don't miss it. But, I mean, Yesipenko is just taking it cool. I mean, I've talked with him. I mean, he's always such a positive guy. And he's just enjoying playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we're looking forward to his participation in this event, and especially knowing the fact that the tiebreak event which he missed, what can be actually a drawback for him later after the summarizing all of the points, he's going to be so to say in the tiebreak the last. So the tiebreak will not be in his favor, but he still is playing despite of this fact. So it's also quite incredible.
Right. So rook takes on c4 here. White technically has an extra pawn. Now the big question is what Vincent is supposed to do here. I mean, probably, I would guess, snatching the pawn on e4 feels to be good. But now, what happens, for example, if I play something like 96?
96. I said 96.
Yeah, but I need to calculate this. What is this?
But
Yeah?
why not knight c6? Knight c6 with the threat on the with the fork on
Ah,
d7?
knight c6. No, I'm just paying attention to knight e6. I thought it's just a pawn immediately. Maybe you're right. Maybe knight c6 is definitely a move. But I thought that this is a bit funny because after knight e2, rook c2, there's some knight b3 ideas, and this again is some sort of a weirdness. But
Yes.
yeah, we already saw quite a lot of it yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why most likely this should not really work. Yeah.
Yeah, but if Vincent cannot really take the pawn, what can he do? Because after rook takes on c4, no, he does take on e4.
Okay, and what's happening on knight c6? Okay, knight e6 we check briefly, and knight c6.
Maybe the same, knight e2. Ah, wait, knight e2, I can just snatch it, yeah? I can just take it, and just an extra piece. Right?
Looks
So
like.
it seems. Yeah, so it seems.
But wait a second, after king f8, knight takes on c8. Isn't the knight just trapped there on c8?
You see, that's the thing. Angelika is always questioning my calculation. Like she's always taking it further, something like 2 or 3 moves, and then I stand corrected. Maybe you're right, but just a second. I'm still going to try to push it.
Yeah, exactly.
C6, bishop b4, knight e7. No, I think this piece is gone.
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, just sometimes if you're calculating some variation, you just go one step or two forward to really check everything. And this is indeed happening. And knight e c5 was played, so not even knight d2. So giving up an exchange.
Yeah, and actually Yesipenko didn't take it. Now that's pretty amazing. He didn't give it a check on e7 for whatever reason, because there's also this fork on b3. He played rook d1, a calm move, because he says, I mean, my fork is not going anywhere. And there's also the b4 threat, and then the knight on d7 is attacked because the black knight cannot leave. So king h7, b4, rook a6 was played, but I think it's also quite important to note how much time does Vincent have on the clock. Are you seeing this, Angelika?
Yeah, I absolutely see it, and maybe we can use this opportunity to try to look if it's indeed like this. But as he's playing so fast, I believe the time
I think
should
so.
be
It
correct.
should be. It should be correct. I mean, I can of course try to zoom it in, but I think it's pretty correct. And Vincent's body language, it doesn't say, doesn't spread a lot of optimism really.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of important, the time, and Yesipenko can use it really wisely, preparing some interesting idea, calculating forehand, and in a couple of moves, Vincent will be able to face some difficult decisions in just a few seconds.
Right. So, wow, rook d4. I was thinking about rook takes on c5. Yesipenko is definitely applying a lot of pressure.
Yeah, indeed. The pressure on the knight on c5, the rook on a4 is also in a way under pressure.
That's
Um,
it. That's it. He just won the game. Knight b3, rook takes on d7. Thank you for the knight. And Yesepenko scores the first win already.
wow, what a start! What a start of the tournament for Andrei. And yeah, yeah, not such a lucky game for Vincent, but he did some good stuff there in this game. But yeah, of course, the end, the last who is blundering matters, obviously.
Right. So I also switched to ninth chess game, which is the final game we haven't seen yet. By the way, I have another result. Gata Kamsky, he sacrificed the pawn, but he lost the game. So we are going to check it maybe very briefly after the games are going to be finished. What happened there? So Gata lost with white against like Wang Liam. And here's the final fourth game of Arkady Naidich playing against Salem Saleh. And
Yeah.
who's playing for the win? I think it's black, no?
Yeah, it looks like the black's king is very safe. If you look at it, it's just absolutely nice there, and all the pieces of black are just looking at the white's king. And if you look at also at the material, it's pretty much equal. So
As they say, the king is naked, yeah?
yes,
The
absolutely.
king is naked. Just take on g2. The white king is naked in the middle of attack. I think black is simply going to take on g2. At some point, he can even play b6, bishop b7, c5, and suddenly we have such a powerful sharpshooter here on b7, destroying white's position.
Indeed, and you of course don't want to play something like h2 because afterwards king will just hide on h1, and that will be it. The pawn on h2 will very nicely protect the king, so that's why taking on g2 should open the files for the king.
And I'm also so amazed of how experienced players, they know precisely when to spend time. And again, look at this. So Salem Saleh sees his opponent has 9 seconds. Does he blitz it out? No. He takes his time. He knows he's very close to strategically winning, so he's going to try to find the most precise way. He's not going to rush it. He's not going to try to flag it. He has a bag of experience of previous games, of course, so he knows when to take his time.
And look what he's doing. He's playing rook d7 with the idea probably of eliminating this rook on d2 or just trying to disturb the queen for a couple of moves to improve his rooks. And indeed, he's playing rook e8, attacking one more time the queen.
And he resigns. Very, very powerful idea. Look at this. He goes
So
here.
after queen f2,
Just
rook
take it.
takes, and rook e2. Very nice.
And this is inevitable threat. So Nadic was completely outplayed. Unfortunately, we didn't get to follow this game much. I believe it was Berlin. Very, very powerful game by our grandmaster.
Yeah, maybe we will have some chance quickly look through the opening of this game after the round finished, because we still have one game to follow. It's Gukesh against Abdusattorov, the game we started looking at the beginning, and look where we got actually.
Wow, this is so dangerous for black. I mean, the king again is naked. I mean, this is probably my favorite expression. Despite the fact that black has an exchange here, the king is weak. The queens are on the board. There's 2 bishops for white.
And position is quite open.
And the position is quite open.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many, dark squares which are just, drafting near the king. Which looks, absolutely not in favor of Norderbeck. And I just wanted to say d5, and he's going for it. Just taking even more space and just making this bishop disappear somewhere back. Because because if bishop goes to f5, I thought maybe there is some g4, but there is bishop e4, no?
I think you just snatch the pawn on b6 as well. Push the a pawn forward. Queen f4 is great idea. Play g4. I mean, it's always easier to play for the mate, right? I mean, if you have the chance to play for the mate, do it. Also, queen f4 opens the room for rook c6. The pawn on d6 is under attack. The pawn on b6 is under attack. I mean, when I'm playing with black, I'm like, yuck.
There is even like some bishop b6. Okay, not anymore. Bishop b6 with rook c7 idea, but of course, queen e5 is played. Trying to ask the queens to be traded. That's the thing
Rook
what black for sure wants to do.
Yeah, I wanted to force some matters. Queen g5. I was looking at this, to be honest. Rook c7, rook e7, take, d6, and I tried to very quickly calculate, can I try to win this? But of course, I mean, the white doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, if there is attack, white is still keeping the queens and then trying to do it even more uncomfortable for black. So Actually, now they traded. I mean, in a way, they traded because Black gave up back in exchange because they said, okay, it's enough.
Oh, that's nice. Queen f6, check here, take, take. White still has the extra pawn. h6. Now, the big question is this enough to win the game? I'm not so sure, Angelika, because White has the pawns on the light squares. This bishop here is not going to help to conquer the black pawns on d6 and b6. The pawn on h6 might become a target itself, so I would actually say it's more closer to a draw than for a win for White.
Yeah, and Rook had to spend also 2 moves to get to the b file to attack the pawn on b5, so it was early on b6, because bishop is controlling b1. And okay, now he's going to trade, and yeah, I mean, it looks like Black can still try to hold it, right? This Rook endgame, because pawn on d5 also can be easily attacked by the king. King can be really active for Black now.
All right. So pawn on d6 is gone. I mean, Black is still not out of the woods yet. I mean, he's still down a pawn. The pawn on h7 might become a target. At any given moment, if there's rook d7 check, Black has the resource of king g6, but moves like rook b6, d6, at the right moment, rook b7 check. It's still an incredibly tricky position for Black to defend. I see the bar. The bar says the position is quite close to a draw, but it doesn't feel like that really.
Yeah, because if the pawns would be on different positions, so that would be maybe much easier for Black to defend. But since there are quite a few weaknesses for Black, and pawn is already all the way to on h6, so it can be indeed dangerous. And how does White exactly deal with that pawn on b file? Probably should take it at some moment, but before that, White is trying to activate the king, which is very, very smart.
And now this looks like just a draw, right? I mean, rook d6 is already a move. Rook h6, the second pawn drops. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything here. I'm pretty sure that Black could even draw the position with king g8, even give up the pawn on g5, and Abdusatorov should know this. He plays it.
Yeah, and most likely we're going to have a first draw in the first round. So yeah, I mean, even though the king of White can be pretty active, it should be just an easy draw for Black to hold.
Now it's just a draw, and you see the players agree on a draw. The position is a reset to the starting position. So first draw here, and also I think what we can do, we can very quickly check the results of the round. So I'm gonna simply refresh this board. No, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. Okay, we are gonna go back there a moment later, so we have quite an amazing graphics here for you to show. We're going to go back and perhaps very, very quickly check what happened in Kamsky's game.
Yes, because we didn't really have a chance to follow how did it actually end, because we saw that Kata had so much initiative with 2 bishops attacking the king. But what did actually Ekman do? How did he manage to survive?
Actually, the game finished pretty quickly. Look at this. Queen b7, knight e5. Okay. Bishop f3 makes sense. Queen f6. Now, there is some queen f6 double attack, by the way. So, queen d7. Very interesting intermezzo move. I'm not really sure why. Here, bishop g7. All right. I'm not sure why this move is really necessary. I guess. Let me try to understand it. Oh wait, look at this. I think the idea was that after queen f3, there's bishop g7 check. Wow. Look at this. Rook g7, queen g7, king g7, and g takes on f3, and White is just an exchange up. So this must have been his idea. So the position is incredibly complex. So that's why rook d8 was played, and now Kamsky did play bishop g7 anyway, and after rook c8, give up the queen. Well, I'm not really sure what happened here, to be honest, but clearly Gata miscalculated. He miscalculated the entire idea, so knight e5, queen f6 was a very interesting idea, and apparently Kamsky was on the wrong side of the complications.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you give up, for example, the pawn for some initiative for 2 bishops, you're not really going with your queen all the way to b7 on the... I believe it somehow was very wrong to remove the queen out of there. Maybe rook to c7 rather to go for some, you know, rook activity. But
Right.
yeah, we're
Right.
just yeah.
So yeah, for the moment the games are finished. The round one is finished, and we're waiting for the results to be updated.
M-
It's happening a bit.
Maybe we can see quickly how the game of Nadic against Saleh Salem was played because we only managed to see the end position. Maybe we can see the opening, what happened there.
Yeah, we can do that. I think it was the Berlin gone wrong. All right, take on c6. I mean, this is not the main move, but of course for the rapid, sometimes there's different rules. Short castle is a normal move because knight e5 is a known mistake. Black plays queen d4, attacking the knight on e5 and the pawn on e4. So this is not really great for white.
And castle is already finally normal here today because yesterday we had some fun with the castling.
Right. And after take it, bishop g5, this is theory, I believe. So white got a nice position. I mean, maybe not a big deal. And somehow,
The position of the king looks solid. Ah, okay, f4, okay.
yeah, so he got really ambitious. F4, H3, A3, knight E4, there's some maneuvers. So look at this, G5. Very
Opening it
aggressive.
up. And there is a hook on h6, h3 and knight on f3. And this is called a hook because then black can go for g4, attacking both the pawn and the knight. And white has to do something, either to remove the knight or take the pawn on g4, which can open the g file.
Right. So this is a pawn sacrifice. Nadic tried to change the character of the game, but already here, I think it's pretty obvious that black is taking over the game. The king is becoming weak, and Salem Saleh started his assault against the king. We already saw the rest. So perhaps now it's time to check indeed what is happening with the pairings. Here you see the results of the round one. Gukesh plays a draw. Although he was pushing against Abdusatorov, I'm not really sure if the position was winning, but he did feel he had great chances to win the game. Gata Kamsky miscalculated something with the white color. I'm not really sure what. It wasn't very, very clear. Yesipenko scored very impressive victory with the white color against Keimer, and for Keimer, I guess, Angelika, this is like a deja vu from yesterday. Again, lost in the round one.
Yeah, and maybe it can be in a way good luck for him.
Yeah, I guess we're going to see maybe once again for Keimer, this is going to mean that, okay, I have the slow start, I'm going to fight back, and who knows, maybe in the end, he's going to win the tournament. And we just saw the game of Salem Saleh winning his game with the black color against Arkady Naidic. So here you see the rankings of the overall tournament, and yeah, so Yesipenko is in the lead together with Lekwang Liem and Salem Saleh. So, yeah, that's the rapid rankings. And of course, I mean, we could check very briefly. We also have the overall ranking for the chess 9, for the Grandmaster Triathlon. So let me check who is going to play in round 2.
So, and we have in round 2, Arkady Naidic facing Gukesh, Saleh Salem against Andrei Sipenko, Vincent Keimer against Gata Kamsky, Lekman Liem against Noderbek Abdusatorov. And I already recall something from the yesterday's round, from the yesterday's chess 960, Arkady Naidic was actually crushing Gukesh after his unsuccessful attack.
Yeah, so we are going to see a lot of rematches here today. Of course, Yesipenko is not among them because he was missing yesterday's Chess 960 tournament. But, yeah, so the games are, I guess, starting in about 5 minutes. Perhaps let me check. Let me check if the players are sitting at the board. No, they're
Yet.
not.
I just seen Yesipenko going up, so probably now, very, very soon, in a few moments, we're going to start.
Yeah, I would like also to remind you, dear viewers, that we are monitoring what you're saying in the chat. So if you have some interesting insights, if you have some questions, don't hesitate to ask them. We're going to do our best to answer them. And right, so just to make it as interesting experience as possible. And also, we are going to have Vishy Anand in about 45, maybe 50 minutes, because I talked with Vish in the morning and we agreed that he is going to be here on round 3. So I guess as soon as the second round is going to finish, we are going to simply make a break, and then Vish is going to be here starting round 3.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Again, just leave some comments in the chat. And yeah, if you have some questions also to the tournament, you can leave as well. But of course, if there is something you would like to know more, maybe from Anand himself.
I think I'm also going to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the tournament system, because as you know, the Biel Chess Festival is not only all about the Grandmaster Triathlon or the abbreviation GMT. There's so many tournaments. So you see we have the closed tournaments, we have the Swiss Championships, we have open tournaments, and in parallel to the Grandmaster Triathlon, there's also the ladies quadriathlon. I mean, this is really, really impressive, and I do believe this is happening for the first time. There are several Swiss championships played in parallel in the span of the 2 weeks, and also there's the Master Tournament, which we're going to talk about perhaps in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are quite a few nice events here happening as well. And actually yesterday also there was a, so to say, open Fisher Random, and today there is the open rapid tournament. So besides Grandmasters playing there also are some other Grandmasters actually in the open sections playing the rapid tournament, and there are even, there is an opportunity, great opportunity for the amateurs to look and see the players like from the GMT. This is really, really nice. And we are having actually here what you can see, the past winners of the Grandmaster Triathlon tournaments and Master tournaments. So you can see quite some amazing people. You can see the world champion Magnus Carlsen, you can see Fabiano Caruana, MVL, Van Hao, and actually the last winner was Gata Kamsky, who is playing as well here. And yeah, he had quite impressive mints yesterday, so we will see how it will work for him today, even though he lost the first game.
And this is also our schedule in case you're wondering when you should come live here, watch us. This is the second day of the Biel Chess Festival. Yesterday we had the Chess 960 tournament. Today we have the rapid tournament of the Grandmaster Triathlon. Tomorrow there's going to be a rest day, so we are not going to be here in the studio. However, after that we have, how many days is it in a row, Angelika? I think it's 9 days.
Yeah, it's just amazing. But I believe that there will be still one rest day for the Grandmasters. On July 18th, there will be a rest day.
But not for us.
But not for us.
Not for us. We are going to be here, but although for a shorter time than usual. Right, so maybe also very quickly, I have to mention about the MTO Open Tournament. It is one of the strongest open tournaments in Europe. You see the top 10 players in the MTO. You know, Angelika, to be honest, I'm not even sure if they are weaker than the GMT, because I see plenty of 2700 players, former candidate Kirill Alexeyenko, so really, really impressive stuff. And they're also fighting for an amazing prize fund of 37,000 Swiss francs.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And considering the fact that last year actually Kirill Alexeyenko was even here for GMT tournament, so he was a participant. Actually, he was a winner of Chess 960. So yeah, we're having some games already happening, and we have here Samitarash actually, Lech Wangliem against Abdusatorov.
I'm wondering if they change their seating because they were not supposed to be in this camera. Either way, they're now here.
So yeah, we're having some quick moves, because it's all is happening is a theory. And yeah, what is Black trying to do? Black is trying to go for some exchanges in order to maybe later gain some initiative and faster development. But White is having very nice center here, so that's something what White should consider to push for d5 at some moment.
So this is quite a traditional position, and just a second, what just happened there? Okay. So this is quite a traditional position for the Tara structure. after, Tarash recently has become quite popular after c takes on d5. There's two choices. Black can play e takes on d5. Knight e5 is also pretty good. And it sort of looks like the Granfell, to be honest, because white gets a powerful pawn center, but black's idea is to aim for the endgame. I mean, because he has the potential to organize an outside pass pawn. For example, if he would remove all of the pieces off the board and there's just an endgame, I would actually give black better chances because in the end he creates an outside pass pawn, black collects the central pawn, and the kingside pawns are closer to him.
Absolutely, and that's the rule also when you're in the end game having the furthest away pawn, which is a passer, you most likely are going to win this because the king should be distracted to that pawn, and while king is taking it, you can take the rest of the pawns of the opponent. So, yeah, and
H3. To be honest, Angelica, I've seen this before. I've seen this before, Summer. I cannot really recall who has played this, but this is definitely a move I've seen before. And now I wonder what is going to happen. There you go. Yeah, I was about to finish my sentence because this is one of the classical ideas. After d5, e takes e5. I think this might be played over the board. White sacrifices a pawn in order to get the knight on d4, the knight on f5, and black has the bishop on b7 with an extra pawn. But the question is, how relevant is this?
yeah, indeed, when this pawn on e5, it's in some way also, okay.
Yeah, but he took on d5.
He took.
This is
I
a different idea.
just wanted to say that pawn on e5 would be very strong control in the f6 square, yes, to create potential attack, but yeah, he just took, and this is now an isolated pawn, but it's not a weak isolated pawn.
No, it's a strong pawn, and of course it's moving forward, and yeah, it's reasonable idea. I guess a pawn is a pawn after all, and white still keeps the option to play knight e4, knight e5 at some point later. Maybe this pawn can be pushed as far as d7. Maybe knight e5, knight c6 could be an idea to exploit this weakness on c6. I guess we are going to find it out.
Yeah, and black's idea probably should be on double somehow on the d file, maybe rook c7, rook d7, such ideas, for example, to create more pressure on the d5 pawn.
Yeah, definitely. Makes sense. Definitely black should try to block the pawn somehow. Although with queen d6, they do say that queen is the worst blockader. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's check more games. Perhaps let's just take them one at a time. And the next game we have on the list is Arkady Naiditsch
Against Gukesh, and if you remember from the last tournament, I mean from yesterday, in chess 960, Gukesh was leading, and actually this was actually Naiditsch who stopped his lead there in the round 4. So they are facing today pretty early each other, but I mean Gukesh still has in memory this painful loss.
What just happened here with white? Something is terribly wrong with his position. This is Rossolimo, I think. I recognize the position, but I'd wonder what the white knight is doing on h2. Just a second. I'm a bit confused. So e4, c5. Yes, bishop e5, of course. It's quite a popular topic, probably ever since the 2018 World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen against Fabiano Caruana. This was one of the big topics, of course. G6, bishop c6, d takes. Yeah, black can choose whichever he wants to take on c6. Both have two different positions. d3, h3, all of this is pretty normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And here, after castle, bishop e7.
This is actually pretty interesting because, Angelica, normally my understanding is that the knight on e7 is bad. I mean, that's what I remember from some studies in the Sicilian Rossolimo, because black tries to play queen e7, knight f6, knight e7, knight f8, knight e6, and then either knight e4 or knight f4. Pardon my arrows.
But maybe black is trying to go for a f5 idea, so that's why knight e7 is supporting it.
Yeah, but the pawn on e5 is sometimes becoming a target. To be honest, I'm not really sure immediately if I have to tell if this plan of knight e7 works together without short castle, or maybe with the short castle, this is something else, because look what happened here. So a3 is a very traditional idea for the Rossalimo. White wants to play b4, put bishop b2, apply pressure against the pawn on e5. All of this makes sense. And after b4, g5. And suddenly this knight is not so bad, right?
Yes, now there is a square on g6 opening for the knight, and there is an opportunity to reach all the way to h4 or f4. Very nice places for the knight.
And also, I can't help but, oh my, yeah, this already is a major concession, you know? I can't help but feel that for white, this was like unpleasant news, because it reminds me the game, quite a famous game from the candidates tournament, not the previous cycle, but a couple of cycles before, Levon Aronian against Vladimir Kramnik. There was quite a famous game when, I think it was either Italian game or Ray Lopez game, to be honest. Pardon me, I don't remember. But also Kramnik started this rook g8, g5 idea and demolished Aronian with the black color. So that was pretty impressive. Now look at this. This is pretty much the same idea, right? So black did not castle short yet, and he just wants to open the king side.
Yes, indeed. Black hasn't castled short yet, so it is very unpleasant for white to face. So there still can be a big attack coming on the white's king with g4. Again, the other hook we can see here as well, opening the position of the white's king. So that's why white indeed has to do something with the knight. But I was thinking, why to h2 to control g4? Why not to e1? Or the idea also maybe to bring the knight somehow to e3, like remove rook to e1, knight f1, knight e3. Can it be an idea?
Maybe. I'm not really sure, but this is not what white had intended. This is not what he wanted to do. He definitely didn't intend to go for this position and play knight h2 and f3. Now you look at the knight on h2, it's not doing a thing really, because white is desperately defending against the g4 threat, and Gukesh is just charging forward. He plays bishop h6, and it's like, oh, listen, I don't need to finish my development at the queen side. I'm going to crush you right here after the opening at the king side.
And you know, the problem also is after playing f3, after pawn pushes to g4, white basically has to trade, or indeed at least black will trade one of the pawns, and some files, g or h file, will get open to the king. So, I mean, it gets pretty dangerous over there near the white's king.
Right. The bar says white is okay. The bar says everything is normal. Everything is normal. You know, not really sure, but I think this is a game we definitely don't want to miss. So I think we are going to do some kind of a roundup. We are going to check all the games, and then we are going to come back to this game, right?
Absolutely,
I think this is going to be fun.
Yes, exactly.
So
let's do it.
Third game is Andrei Yesipenko against Salem Saleh.
Yeah.
This I don't think we checked yet.
Yeah, we haven't checked
sorry?
it yet. And okay, we're having here Vincent, but now
No, I'm trying to find them.
because the players probably are not sitting on there.
I think they
Or-
slightly changed their seating, to be honest, because I have a list of the games online, and usually they sit in the same order, and now there's something else. So I don't understand.
Yeah, but okay. So anyway, we found them. That's
found
very
them.
good. That's very good. And what do we have here? Actually, what happened in the opening? Because it feels like that it was something similar to the game of Abdusatorov against Lek Van Liem, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
looks
like
pretty similar.
semi-Tarish, or
Yeah, it looks pretty similar. So yeah, it's pretty much the same Tarash with the different order moves. A3, stopping bishop b4. I guess Salem really values the importance of his darks of a bishop. I can relate to that. Bishop
D3,
d3.
and afterwards b6. So black is not trading on d4 yet, so they're still keeping this pressure.
Actually, this is quite an interesting topic, because I've played this position a couple of times with black color. I have no clue. I tell you honestly, which is the right moment to take on d4? Because if you take on d4 a bit early, it opens the c file for the white rook. And if you delay it for too long, then white can just push d5, and you're actually going to regret that you didn't take on d4, because now your pawn on c5 is closing the dark square, bishop on e7. So it's really tricky.
Yeah, and sometimes those 2 pawns on c3 and a3, can block these 3 pawns on the queen side, so that can also be dangerous for an endgame. But I think that at some moment they took because we saw the final position without the pawns on c5.
I love this left, the rook left. It's like rook d3, rook g3, rook g7, checkmate, right? It's very, very aggressive move. So the rook is definitely heading to g3, trying to ask black some very direct questions. How you're going to deal with my attacking intentions?
Yes, on knight b8, knight has to be remaneuvered to protect the c5 square and to protect also the king side, to be ready to go maybe sometimes at the f8 square.
Yeah. So definitely Yesipenko is trying to secure his king. The bishop g5, the bishops got traded. Rook c1, rook e8. Okay, that's interesting because black is pretty much ignoring what is happening at the queen side, and he makes sure the c file can be combated with something like knight f8.
Yeah, and we see here another idea. So white doesn't really have only the one idea of pushing d5, but a few moves ago e5 was pushed and it's taking very important square on f6, so knight cannot really go there and protect the king. So yeah, now knight can go all the way to d6.
Yeah, I think if white is going to make the knight to d6, this could be a problem for black. But let's just put it this way. If white is going to play some really strong chess and he's going to put the knight on d6, I definitely give white some edge, right? Maybe also some kingside attack ideas like knight f5, like rook g3, like h5, h6, you name it, right? There's so many ideas. But if, for example, black trades off the queen somehow and puts the knight on d5, this basically already means he has the pawn majority at a queen side. For example, you remove the queens, remove the rooks, maybe put the knight on d5. I mean, basically, black is pawn up.
Absolutely, that's what can be dangerous. So in case the pieces will be traded, the endgame will be pretty much better for Andrei. But you still have the queens on the board, so there still can be some action on the king side.
There's some interesting ideas. Yeah, knight e4, knight e6, or knight c4, knight e3. I'm not sure what exactly Yesipenko prepared. f6 is
How
played.
do you protect the pawn? f4?
Maybe I just take it. I'm not really sure, but that would be changing the character of the game. So I'm not totally sure. f4 does weaken the king a little bit. So it's quite a big decision for Salem Saleh, and I think we are going to, again, use this opportunity to check the fourth and final game of round 2, which is Vincent Keimer against Gatakamsky.
Yeah, and here we are. We haven't really checked this game yet, so let's see what is happening over here on the board. Yeah, and looks like a king of the white is all the way in the center because it's an endgame already, and sometimes
Are
king
you,
will be...
are you implying it was a bank cloud? No?
No, I
No
don't
bank
think
cloud?
so.
Okay.
I don't think the players are that crazy here.
All right, let's check how the white can go to e2. Pretty sure it was a very natural way.
Yeah, probably some take on it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, this is, again, theory. Bishop g4 is not the most popular move. It's definitely playable. More popular is bishop f5 and then play e6. It runs into some knight h4 ideas, so bishop g4 is slightly something else. And in these positions, white is usually trying to get the two bishop advantage, right? So he wants to snatch the bishop on g4 and then slowly, carefully expand, take more space, and, rely on the two bishop advantage.
Yeah, indeed. And here we are having already knight on e5, taking one of the most important squares in the position. And yeah, white still can choose what they want to do. And of course, important to mention that neither of the side want to take the queen because that would open a file for the other side.
Yeah. So bishop f5, c takes on d5. This pretty much forces Kamsky to take on b3, I guess because of c takes on d5, there could be some bishop b5 check ideas. So queen b3, now he did open for white a file, but white is sort of slightly suffering because of the vulnerable pawn structure.
Yes, of course. Here we have already some trade of the bishop, so white couldn't manage actually to take that bishop with a knight. So yeah, we just have some trade. And king actually voluntarily went to
That's a
e2.
delayed bomb cloud, I guess. Okay, I mean, on a serious note, I mean, white doesn't really have to castle because why do we castle at all? I think it's two reasons. Reason number one, bring the king to the safety. Reason number two, connect the rocks, right? And if the king is safe on e2, why not just put it there?
Yeah, and there is also no light squared bishop from from black. Sorry, so that's why king cannot be really attacked there, and all the squares of entering with a knight are protected on f4, c3, or anywhere. And it's an endgame. And in endgame, the king is good when it's active.
Indeed. Yep. So the king is going to be closer to the action. Oh, knight e1. Look at this. That is interesting. Declining a trade. f5. Aha. So he played knight e1 in order to push e4 and then push away the knight from b4 and then somehow try to get a space advantage. So Kamsky played f5. Very, very committal move.
Fixing the pawn on e3, not allowing going pawn forward.
There's a lot of maneuvering.
Yeah, a lot of trade, some traders. And you know, even though white has this doubled pawn there on b3 and b2, it's not so easy to attack them at all. And for rooks, it's pretty nice a file.
I mean, it's something like maybe a long-term issue for white because let's say if indeed the position simplifies, we enter an endgame. White cannot really play a pawn endgame here because this is like maybe even lost because these double pawns they're going to remind of themselves at the worst possible moment. But I mean, here white has the open a file, right? So it's got to give him something.
Yeah, so it means that white doesn't really have to aim for some really radical exchanges in this position. So, okay, the bishops were exchanged, but not more, not much more than that.
You know, Angelika, I look at this position and I share the pain. I share the pain because I recall having similar positions from, again, Dutch Leningrad. I mean, usually the pawn's either on g6 or g7, sometimes in Dutch, sometimes in Queen's Indian. And you just wish you didn't play f5, right? You want to have the pawn on f7 because now the pawn on e6 is an eternal weakness. So white could try to target it with either knight e4 or knight g5 or even put the knight on e5. And look at this knight on e5.
Absolutely. The pawns are not going back. That's the rule of chess. And yeah, but you really wish for pawn to be on f7.
Right.
So rook d7 or rook d8 should be played to protect that knight.
Yeah, but which rook? That's a big question, right? Which rook? Which rook do you put on d8?
In case of rook a d8, what happens after rook a4 attacking the a7?
That's a good question.
Rook d7?
Rook d7 is knight e5, yeah? It's overloaded. The rook is overloaded. Maybe rook f7, but then again, there's some knight g5 ideas. There's some knight e5 ideas. There's some knight c6 ghost ideas. You know, you never know. You never know. And you look at this position, that's why this rook c6 is so unpleasant to Gata, and he definitely knows he is on the defensive side. He's not the one playing it for the win. And yeah, he's trying to work it out.
Yeah, and what is happening after rook f to d8? Maybe then white can use this opportunity and bring the rook to the c7 because there is no rook f7 anymore, somehow trying to trade the rooks, and maybe rook a4 can be the next move.
Yeah, I was more thinking about knight g5 really, but yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's also rook c7. Rook c7, try to do in the 7th rank. I mean, either way, I mean, for Gata here, things are slightly unpleasant. So once again, I think we are going to try to go back to this excitement, which is probably, I hope it's happening in...
Actually, there is just one move made when we just can briefly check. Black played
knight e4.
Giving up the pawn, very interesting idea. So just saying, okay, I would rather make my knight active and give up the pawn on e6.
You know, they used to say, there's the saying, not out of good life.
Yeah,
He's not out of good life because indeed he realized all of these issues of knight e5, knight g5, knight e4. So best rely on the active defense. And of course, Gata Kamsky is the most experienced player here this year. So definitely he knows that he's not going to try to play passive chess. And if it's necessary, he is going to have to sacrifice the pawn but rely on active defense.
Yeah, so let's go and check the other game. We haven't checked one, or we checked.
No, we did.
Okay, now we're going back probably to.
Yeah, we did check it. So I'm gonna try to catch knight h.
Yeah, let's look at this game because it's indeed a very interesting one, considering the yesterday result and overall. If we're looking at the position, Black's king is simply in the center and saying, okay, there is no danger there for me, and just attacking the king.
I think he gave up a pawn, right? Let me try to check it.
Let's go back a little bit.
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry, wrong one. Just a second. Think I'm moving the wrong board. Okay. I think it's here. Okay. So how did this happen? He sacrificed the pawn.
So g4 indeed happened, and
Take it. Queen g5.
but even though he gave up the pawn, he opened two very important files, H and G file, just looking at the king.
Mm-hmm. And he is not yet castle. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about all of this.
There is also an interesting idea of playing something like knight h3 to give to take back the piece, because knight on d2 is hanging.
Oh, I see. Again, pardon my arrows. So the knight on d2 is under attack. But I mean, I'm just trying to have an abstract look at this position. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of what Gukesh is trying to do here. I really like improvised play right at the opening, and I felt that this entire sequence of knight h2, f3, definitely Arkady didn't want to do this. But then we have this final position. And Black plays queen g5. You know, I'm not really convinced that Black's stack is so strong, because also his own king is in the middle of the center. He cannot really castle long. If he cannot castle long, I mean, how do you bring the queenside rook into the attack?
But as we're just saying, okay, this knight h3 move is indeed some way of actually a threat, and knight c4 was played, removing that knight. Because I believe the knight going to f3 was not possible, although it was attacking the queen, but some bishop g4 maybe could
You
be
mean
an
here?
idea.
Knight f3?
Yeah, knight f3.
Yeah, probably.
Some bishop g4, very nice probably idea of.
Yeah. So I don't think it's really working. So knight c4 is making sure that the knight on g4 remains protected. The pawn on e5 now is targeted. The knight on d6 is targeted. So indeed, I mean, I look at this position, and the more I look at it, the less I like it for Black.
Yeah, and okay, there is also the problem, for example, what to do about this knight on g4. Like, you cannot really take it because the queen will take it. So what to do with this knight?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think it's there to stay, to be honest, because unfortunately for Black, he doesn't have another pawn to push away the knight. So it's the moment when you would wish you actually had a pawn on h7. You could play something like bishop g7, h5, and there you go. You open the g file. The knight on g4 stays. f5 is not a threat, because white can always take on f5, and
For some reason, h pawn took on g4. I thought actually.
I have to show this, Angelica, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That was the issue. That was the issue. And if you play something like king h1 or king h, actually this is a. Is there a word in vocabulary? Check? No, it's a checkmate, obviously, but double checkmate. No, is it? Is there such a word?
Double checkmate?
Double checkmate. No,
I don't think so.
no. Okay, I just invented it.
Yeah.
I just
We
didn't-
can use it. We can use it.
All
for
right,
sure.
and this, of course, is also, you can choose whatever checkmate you want, so that's, of course, the reason why Gukesh cannot take with the queen. And
Not
h takes
Gukesh.
long castle.
Not
Not Gukesh,
Gukesh.
but knight h, yeah, sure.
So yeah, now long castle finally happened, controlling the d6 square, so knight cannot really jump there. So also important. Knight ending in a way nicely attacking the e5 pawn, but it's all protected, and the h file is opened now actually, and maybe something can really happen there. Maybe sometimes even sacrifices. Yeah. What do you think will Black do? What is the plan? How to increase the attack?
I'm not sure there is an attack, to be honest. I mean, maybe, because also the black king is weak. And for example, if you play something like rook g8 to join the other rook in the attack, it allows to play some knight d6. If I'm white, I think I would be considering the prime move, either bishop e3 or queen f3, just to secure my king. So let's say I try to play bishop e3, right? Just in case. I mean, I'm creating some space for the king to escape. I'm threatening to take on a 4, one less piece to worry about. And let's say if black plays rook g8, maybe I just take it, and calculate if this fork works.
I believe rather rook should be brought to h8. What do you think, right, with the idea of rook h7 and rook h8?
Yeah, it's definitely a move, but it could be a bit slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not an optimist.
I mean, if there is a direct idea like this, and how can white attack the black's king?
Yeah, and instead he did play g3.
Oh, but
G3.
g3 is very strange, to be
That
honest.
is that is strange move, to be honest. I felt that bishop e3 looked natural. I mean, why g3 is a strange move? I think we have to talk about this.
Yeah, because it's absolutely weakening the light squares, and knight is just can really right away jump there to the h3 without any issues. And you know, something like also pushing at some moment to b5 can happen, you know, because after knight h3, let's say, trading the bishop on f2 and playing something like b5, you know, the squares, the dark squares are actually are, you know, just drafting there, and for example some queen, removing the queen, and bishop goes to e3.
Mm-hmm.
So such ideas maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Uh, yeah. I think Arkadiy's idea is to play bishop e3 the next move. That's why he played g3 now. So he knows. I think he knows you have to put the bishop on e3, but he just chose a different order of the moves. And look at this. Gukesh says, I'm not going to move the knight. So bishop g7, he tries to exploit the white king's placement. Take it. Oh my goodness. Queen h6, bishop g3, and e takes on f4.
Wow, it's really incredible piece sacrifice. And we can see that, for example, queen on g1 is not really participating in protection of the king h1 or h2. And now the question is what you're doing with the bishop, because it should protect the h2 square.
Yeah, definitely the bishop has to protect it, but now you see there's various threats. There's queen h1, there's bishop d4. The rook on a1, by the way, is under attack. I don't think it's really a threat for black unless he gets it for free.
Yeah, absolutely, because bishop is much stronger than the rook on a1. Bishop can go to d4, as Artur just showed us, and create much more threats than just taking that poor rook on a1. And if we're looking also at the time, knight is under pressure. Knight indeed is under pressure.
But can you just take it? Can you just take it, because you cannot recapture, because there's going to be queen h1 check and your queen is lost. Because I'm not sure what was wrong with bishop f4, to be honest. There was a mate, right? Or something? Where's the mate? There's a mate, right?
Bishop, yeah. And the problem is if knight, yeah, okay.
That's a mate, right?
Yeah, and knight cannot go to e3 because bishop takes on e3. Okay.
That's also a mate? I'm just trying to
yeah,
various
sure,
mates.
sure. Knight e3, bishop e3, and if bishop takes, queen h2.
Nice. Very nice. So that was indeed the idea. So knight played rook takes on f4. Again, not out of good life, but look at the clock. I mean, he is down on the half a minute, 30 seconds on the clock.
And Gukesh is not rushing. He's taking his time. He's calculating the ideas. He has 3 minutes of time. That's quite a nice time for this position, because, I mean, there can be different ways to win, and he should find the best one.
Okay, can I get crazy here?
Sure.
All right.
Why not?
I'm thinking, why Gukesh is not just taking the rook on a1? And I noticed there's rook takes on f7, threatening some checks. This is probably a very ridiculous idea. I still want to check it.
It's an interesting counter attack actually on the black's king, and pretty unexpected.
Where's the mate? Is there a mate? Maybe there's no mate. Yeah? You see any mate? I don't see any mate.
I do not really see the mate.
So the king goes to a8, yeah? Okay, my ridiculous idea was debunked immediately. Yeah, so rook takes on a4, bishop a1. Why Gukesh is not making the move? Because it's a free rook. You cannot take on a1, there is a check on h1. So, where's the big idea? What's happening here? What is happening here? Why is he thinking? Queen f3 maybe? But it's just a rook, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's just a rook. But maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there is something else, but I don't.
Okay, try it again. Check here. Take.
So now maybe some knight move, but okay, if knight moves and there are at least checks and.
You need to give this check.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. The check is.
Check. Now resign. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, it's not working. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is after bishop a1.
I don't know. Maybe he's thinking to go with queen h1 first, and after king f2, then to play bishop a1. Just to change the move order. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like looks similar.
Yeah, but it might also give white opportunity to trade the queens and now play rook f7.
And now it's really unpleasant.
Yeah, so not very clear, to be honest. You know, I would have already taken rook right away, and now he takes it, and king g2 is played.
Yeah, king g2, of course, not allowing anything happen on h1 or h2 square, but h3 is available. And I mean, after bishop actually going to d4, queen h3 is quite a big threat, right? Because after king goes to f3, can there be something?
Queen h3 check, king f3. Yeah, maybe there's something. Maybe there's something. What the bar is saying? Black is better, yeah?
But for sure, there will be some ideas to play something like f6, for example. And just to say, okay, there is no counterplay, rook cannot take on f7, and that's it. So that's why probably knight is just playing actually e5, trying to do something out of
the blue, yeah?
Out of the blue, yeah.
I think there's some check ideas on d6 and f7. I think the biggest issue here for Arkady is the time issue. But also Gukesh is down on the clock. He's below 40 seconds, so he's slowly approaching his opponent's time trouble. He knows this is the critical moment. He knows he needs to make a good move. There's a million thoughts in his head. How do you cope with this pressure?
And the thing is, I believe what can be interesting now, since the pawn is on e5 and it's stopping the bishop from g3, maybe there is an idea of playing something like queen h3 check, king goes to f3 and trading the queens on h1. So afterwards, there will be no rook f7 idea. But look what's happening. b5 was played, basically forcing knight to go to d6.
Right. So knight e6 is played. A rook sacrifice, e takes, bishop e5. The clock is ticking, tick-tock, tick-tock. So Nadic is down on 10 seconds. Gukesh has 23 seconds. So this essentially is a huge time trouble.
Yeah, it's like very huge time pressure for both of the players, and yeah, basically anything
King
can
e4, King e4. Nadic wins King of the Hill because he
Yes.
made with the king in the center first. So the king's on e4. What a move!
But luckily, it's not King of the Hill what they're playing, so we're going to see what is going on. And yeah, bishop takes the rook, and
King f4. I mean, king is a piece after all, right?
king
I
is
mean,
a piece.
just
because,
incredible.
Yeah, because after bishop f4, it would be just rook d8, rook e8, and some mate. So
Right, right. King g2, very, very exciting game. And actually, a couple of moves before, I was hoping the king is going to make it to f5, really. The king on f5 is also taking care of some squares. No, now the king goes back.
but why not to c5? Maybe somewhere to c5, try to take the pawn on c6 and maybe checkmating at some moment.
I mean, jokes
Every-
aside, it's a piece, right?
It's a piece for sure, especially in the endgame. So we're having now actually the king on g2, and pretty much it's protected. And
I think Nadic should be lost. He should be lost. If black is going to trade the queens, he should be lost. And also after the c4, I'm not really sure why Gukesh just didn't trade the queens and go after the pawn on a2. Felt super obvious to me. And now he left the queens on the board, so okay, maybe he sees more.
That's just. Yeah, the problem is that again, even though the king is safe for a moment, there are a lot of entry squares and something like rook to c2. But of course, it has to be calculated because there are some counter ideas of white's king to enter to e7. So, oh, actually, he went for rook c2 and queen e7, king c. Wait, so not queen e7, but queen a7 and king c8.
Wait. Is there d7 check? Is that a mate? d7. Bishop
What?
h4. What is happening here? Oh my God! Did it just blunder? Did he just blunder this? I mean,
Oh
look.
my God.
Oh my goodness!
Just
I mean,
look at this.
look at this. I mean, this was completely winning for Gukesh. And this moment he played King C8. He tried to secure the king, and there you go. D7 check, thread with a mate. Queen D7, Queen B8. There's a mate on the board. King D8, Bishop H4. Lights out.
Incredible. What a game. I mean, the rook
What a
c2 was
game.
a big mistake, right? You cannot allow that that check.
Yeah, but this was such a huge miss because I felt that just play queens, queen e2 check, just trade the queens, king f3, rook a2. This should be a technically winning position, right? I mean, exchange up, put the king on e7, e6. The bishop on g3 is not doing anything. The pawn on d6 is not doing anything. Maybe Gukesh's idea was that he is going to do it later, and after the trade, there is no queen trade. And he just blundered the entire game with d7 check. Wow.
Wow, that's indeed something yeah, we didn't expect at all after such a nice game and attack from the Gukesh. And yeah, him being up on time. Actually, we have other results already as well while we are following this game because both players were pretty low on time. So maybe let's see what was happening there.
Yeah, so very quickly we are going to mention, because we are going to make a short break as we are going to have the formidable champion Vishy Anand here with us in something like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so. So just let's mention that Salem Saleh lost his game against Andrei Yesupenko, who has scored the second victory in a row, this time with the black color. I don't think we're going to have time to recheck the game, maybe at some point later here with Vishy with us. Vincent Keimer scored a nice victory against Gata Kamsky, and Gata lost the second game in a row, I think.
Yeah, that's not a good start of the rapid for him.
And also, Le Quang Lier made a draw against Nodirbek Abdus Satorov. And let me check if we can see the current results. So here you see it. Officially, Nadic beat Gukesh. What a major turnaround it was in the time trouble. Gukesh missing already probably the second victory in a row. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. 3 decisive games, 1 draw, and this is here the current ranking overall in the rapid tournament, because Yesupenko leads the tournament with 4 points out of 4, having scored 2 victories. In the rapid section, he is followed by Le Quang Lian by 3 points, and Abdus Satorov, Keimer, Nadic, they share, also Salem Saleh, they share the 3rd place with 2 points, having scored 50% so far. So what I think we are going to do right now, we are going to make a short break of something like, I'm not really sure yet, perhaps 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. So we are going to be back with you shortly. Don't go anywhere. Just a second. Let me try to prepare everything. Don't go anywhere yet. We are going to be back shortly with Vishy Anand here with us in the studio, who is going to be for about 90 minutes following the games of round 3 and 4. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. See you in a bit. The 55th International Biel Chess Festival already has started. And